Finger.
Fine. Actually, it's almost back to normal. Barely even see it where it's like right there. But I got all these like punctures all around, here,
Oh, wow. Sure.
meaty part of my hand. But it's what it is. Pain doesn't really bother me. It's not an issue. It was just more of a freak out because, swear to God, like 95% of the time, she is just this loving, affectionate, wonderful dog.
Yep.
And that 5%, man, it was like watching The Exorcist. She was just a completely different dog.
I know. I saw it. I've seen it.
It's like holy shit! Like what happened?
Yep.
And
yeah.
So I know you talked to Emily, but basically, we were getting ready for our day. It was morning. We were all hustling, trying to like get in and out of the shower and everything. And I'm doing some rental work on one of our rooms. And so she picked up this little plastic door insert thing, starts chewing on it. I'm like, oh shit, she shouldn't have that. So I'm like, how do I get her out of here? So I throw something on the main level. She grabs the plastic and goes down after the thing I threw her. She's like smart enough to know, hey, I got to grab this plastic and then I'll go down and chase that other thing. And then I was just trying to get her away from it. Like, hey, go run down the stairs. I finally got her down the stairs where she spends the night. And I was trying to like back her into her space. And I should not have done that. That's where I made this critical mistake. Because then she came at me like just this demon. And finally, we got a bathroom that was right next to where this all happened. I grabbed her with my left hand. I grabbed her by the collar. I lifted her up off the ground, and I threw her in the bathroom and shut the door. And then it looked like a slasher movie. There was blood everywhere. And I was like, and it wasn't. I mean, like I said, it's like the pain. Yeah, it hurts, of course, but it's not that. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, holy shit, I didn't see it coming. Did I just make just an error in judgment of how to handle the situation? So.
Oh no, I mean I've been there. That's how I got this.
Oh yeah, I know. And we both love dogs, and we're willing to give them a second, third, fourth, fifth. Like okay, and this is also a family member. This isn't like some random dog down the street.
Right.
This is like having like this probably sounds like an awful analogy, but sometimes I feel like it's having a child with autism that acts out. And you love the child, and it's not like you're just going to send the kid to some home someplace. You work with it, and it is what it is. So you work around it, and that's.
No, I think it's a good analogy. I mean, some people may not like it or whatever, but that's just how the world is.
And I don't mean it to be offensive, and I know
you're
absolutely right, but it's kind of the same thing. You've got like a behavioral thing that's going on, and I don't know if that changes with maturity or training or whatever, but.
Right. So we'll review that, and that's really good. And I've actually used a similar analogy where I was, talking to a client. They had a dog. Their dog was a very severe case, and I said, "Look, this is the minimum. This is the maximum. Okay, we're going to be somewhere there." And I said, "It's like going into a relationship, and that person has their own baggage, right? Whatever it may be, or like." You could be married to someone and then 5 years later they get diagnosed with like some kind of terminal cancer. And like, are you just going to just leave them? Like you're there together, you stick with them, you ride it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some people that of course just, take a hike. But it's very, very similar. You have a dog, there's issues, and then we look at, I give you the spectrum, and then, we take it from there. So the biggest thing would be like, because if I remember correctly, we were rather aware that Penny is a resource guarder, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing that, okay. So for instance, like we have a rule here at my facility: no toys in the playpen, left play in the playpen, period, unless we're working with the dog isolated. To avoid, just completely avoid, if we have a dog in the play area that's a resource guarder. Because a lot of my clients will say, I take my dog to the dog park, my dog is great, But as soon as they take a tennis ball or as soon as they pick up a stick, then it becomes a problem. So then I tell them, then don't ever let them have a ball or a stick at the dog park.
Yeah.
You know, because you're avoiding it. You know, you're preventing an issue from happening. So, and I know in your case, we'll talk about that too, because, you know, let's say Penny picks up like a bag of chocolate, like, you know, it's like we need to get that bag of chocolate, right? And then, but now there's like a whole evaluation process. So I'm like, well, I also know she's a jackass and she's going to try to come after me, right? And I go like, I don't have the remote or I don't have this, right?
Yeah.
So, the main thing was, and you said critical decision where you push things and you essentially kind of, it sounds like you cornered her, right?
Well, I try to back her into the room where she spends most of the day when we're not home.
Right, but that room essentially, like there would be no exit.
Right.
Yeah. So like, you know, so what happened was you back her into a room there, if you're, you know, at the threshold, she knows there's no exit. So then it's fight or flight mode. Well, flight is no longer an option.
Sure.
Right. So last thing left in her book is fight. Now, this is, and when I talk to everybody and I tell them like, you know, dogs bite people and each other. Like that's their language. Right. So the moment I go into that, like if it was me and I'm like, all right, I have to take this object from her. Right. Cause it's an emergency, but I'm like, but crap, she's a resource guarder and I know the level that she can go to. I'm going in with the intention of like, if she comes after me, I'm ready to reciprocate. Okay. Keeping my hands out of it. You know, so like when we had, going back to the incident here, like I know exactly what you're talking about because I saw her face when she got pissed at us, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was a split moment decision for me, right? In a split second, I decided I need to body block my employees, put myself in front of her and use my foot. If she gets my foot, yes, she can puncture, but at least there's some sort of protection there.
Yeah, plus you were wearing boots, so it was different.
No, I had tennis shoes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Well, if you're barefoot, yeah, that's the next thing, right?
I
Now,
was barefoot.
I'm barefoot.
I don't even have pants on. I was wearing boxers.
Yeah,
Like,
you know, and
I'm like,
I
got my hands
thought
on
that.
there, like, hey, you know.
So, you know, then I grab something. I grab a broom or grab something to keep.
No, I know.
At bay.
Yeah.
So, that context, you know, because I know you said like, you know, 95% of the time she's great, that 5% of the time she can flip. And, you know, it's just like with people, you know, like even on the news or in newspapers and stuff, where like, let's say there's a domestic abuse thing, and everybody outside of that was like, he was the greatest guy. He was so nice. He was a fantastic neighbor, this and that.
Yeah.
And then is actually terrible within the home. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, you know, just for like with people, you know, I get mad. Everybody gets mad. But there's some people who, when they get mad, go 0 to 10. You know, they could be a nice person 99.9% of the time until you piss them off.
Right.
You know.
And here's something else, and I think this is relevant because Emily was telling me about this after the fact. She said, you know, she seemed like she was a little bit off. Meaning, Penny was a little bit off. And we even started using your number system. I think Penny's a 3. And that was this morning, or that was that morning.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of just said, you know, something's not quite right. She's not coming over to the sofa and snuggling with me. She like is over there. We've got a couple different sofas. She's over there. She doesn't want to engage. She's just, you know, something's up. And then, you know, like I said, this was a little bit later after that. She came to the top of the stairs where we got the landing, and I got like all the paint crap and the plastering stuff. And it's when she got this thing, because she didn't want to be by herself. She wanted to come up. Hey, everyone's upstairs. What am I missing out on? You know, despite it all, she's still a pack animal. And so, but Emily said, you know, this is where she is. And I kind of didn't really, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So now we discuss that. Like, oh, how's she doing this morning? Oh, she's doing fine. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's loving. She's affectionate. She came right over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever the deal. She seems to be in a good mood. And I'm also, you know, slowly getting better at reading signals. Is she panting? Does she have her tongue out? Is she, You know,
Mhm.
she looked like she's smiling,
Mhm.
or is she more subdued? She has her mouth closed. She's, you know, looking around a certain way.
Mhm. And you want to read those things in context,
Yeah.
right? She could be passive and relaxed with her mouth closed. Like
Yeah.
let's say she's like sleeping on her dog, like not sleeping, but like laying on her dog bed, like closed mouth there, and she was like, that wouldn't mean tension. That would just mean she's relaxed, right?
Yeah. Right.
Um, it's really more so if something is happening, like let's say, um, within that moment, right, of the tension, and she's, she if it's not a very uh, what's the word uh, obvious, like man, she's showing her teeth, she's growling, she's curling her lips and stuff,
Yeah.
or that mouth is closed and she's staring right at me within a moment when you're confronting each other, right? Now let's say you both just stood there, and after like 10 minutes, all of a sudden she went from staring at you to just opening her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Be now just let the moment go and resolve that tension. Doesn't mean I can move forward, because if I close the gap, then that's a new context.
Yeah.
Makes sense? So a
Yeah.
good way to learn dog behavior, I tell everybody, is always the first seasons of Caesar Milan. That's how I learned how to read body language very well, very quickly, because he explains everything. And you see it, and if you don't see it, you can rewind it and watch it again and watch it again and watch it again until you learn that stuff. Because you only have Penny as your source of education currently, and that's a very limited amount of information because it's just Penny. But when you start to see it in the context of a lot of dogs in general, and every dog, like some dogs, when they before they become reactive, they'll like perk their ears up. You know,
Mhm.
doesn't mean every dog does that. I get other dogs that will like stare and then just move their head forward before they're going to become reactive. Other dogs raise their hackles. Other dogs start to like fidget on their feet. But they're all different signs. It's kind of like with people, like we express stress or responses to things in different ways. So you're learning what Penny's vocabulary is, but it's good to know, I think, just in general, dog body language. I always recommend people to Caesar Milan because he has at least like, there was, I think, like 8 seasons of Dog Whisperer. Then he got Caesar 911. Then he had, like I think two to three more shows. So, um, but the old stuff is the best in my opinion because that's when he was just himself and he was unfiltered. Um, and he softened up a lot through the years. So.
Okay.
And then stuff that we post, but the stuff that we post, reactivity, like I have a dog I just did today who's going to be a really good reactivity video because the dog was pretty escalated and like on its hind legs and biting the leash and then try to yank it from the owner and stuff. And then the owner had to like, de-escalate the dog and all that. So,
Yeah. You know, it's weird because, okay, so I tend to think of this as like an isolated incident. Like, this
mhm.
is not how she normally is,
No, yeah.
but I understand she's got two different types of resource guarding that she does. One is a space guarding.
Mm-hmm.
This is my territory. Don't get anywhere near me. And if you try to pull me out to let me out, or
Right, right.
you think I need to go to the bathroom, so you're going to get me out because you got to go to work, it's not going to end well. And so we've taken her out of that space and we give her her own space, which is next to our laundry room that has like, it's gated here and gated here. So now she's in, she's got a little doghouse, she's got a bed, she's got a couple toys. It's like maybe, I don't know, 6x6, 8x8 area. And
Sure.
it's her space. No one goes in it, her space. And then when we want to let her out, because we think she knows, so the first thing in the morning, she's got to go to the bathroom or whatever, we open the gate and we stand back and we let her come out and approach us.
Okay.
And then we can read, you know, is she really tentative? Is she staying back? Like, don't get near me, I'm in a bad mood. Or does she come right out?
Mm-hmm.
And only if she comes right out is when we then engage her and take her out.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we know there's something there. We don't know what it is, but it might not, she might react to us.
Right.
And we don't want to be in that situation. Also, and it's important to know, so we've got three of us at home right now, our daughter who's 18, and then Emily and me. Our daughter Bella doesn't deal with the dog anymore. Not for a while, because Emily and I are just like, let us handle this. Let us handle letting her out until we got a better sense of what's going on here. We don't want to put our daughter in harm's way.
Sure.
So, so there's the space guarding thing. And then obviously, like I just said, there's a resource guarding thing, whether it's, someone left a cup of coffee on the coffee table, or there's a piece of plastic, or there's whatever the hell it is,
Sure.
Somehow she manages to get in the kitchen, and then there's something up in the counter, and she grabs like a piece of lunch meat or a piece of bread or something, and now it's in her mouth. You're not getting that back. And if you try to push the issue, you're going to come up in the wrong end of that. It sucks, because you want to establish, hey, don't do that. Don't go jumping up on the counter. Don't be getting that stuff. Just, but it's like, you got to pick your battles with her.
Sure.
So
when it comes to handling situations, for me, there's no right or wrong, right? And I always suggest to people that they, in their head, have already made a decision about how they would approach it, and go through the different variables. Me as a professional, I know when I come into the picture and I'm going to correct the dog, I always anticipate the dog may redirect or come at me. Okay, just keeps me on my toes. And I already know if a dog comes at me, I'm going to defend myself. Okay. And then it's going through my mind of, okay, I have shoes on, easy to defend myself, or easier. But then what about when I don't have shoes on?
Yeah.
Like having that, because there's different contexts, like there's going to be something different in every moment. And it's kind of already in my head, I have these decisions already made, so that within the moment, I don't hesitate.
It's like you're Chuck Norris, and there's like three guys who try to jump you. It's like, all right, here's the situation. Here's how I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to get the short guy with a roundhouse, and I'll come after the other two.
And a friend of mine, he's military, and he's been trained that in any environment he's in, he has to have, I believe, 3 outs. So every time, 3 outs. And every time he walks into, and I spoke with him, like, I don't know, when we spoke about this, like, it was like maybe half a year ago. And we were talking about something, that happened, I think, on the news. And then he's like, yeah, man, he's like, I'm trained to like have 3 outs in any environment. He's like, I already have my 3 outs here. And we were like at my friend's house, and he was just like, why would you have 3 outs here? This is my place. You're safe here, whatever. He's like, it's just so ingrained in me that anywhere I go, I have 3 outs. And,
interesting.
And so it's having those options, because there's something, like you said, if something happens, you have to make these split-second decisions. So if he's got 3 outs and he's like, well, that one's covered by a fire, this one's that one, I got this other one. You know what I mean? Like he's got, or like, which one am I more likely to succeed with trying to escape through? So
you said he was in the military. Was he Army, or what was he?
Yeah, Army.
So did he see some action? Did he go to like Iraq or Afghanistan?
I know he was deployed. I believe he did go to either or, but I don't think anything ever really happened when he was there.
Yeah, but still, if you're going like house to house, building to building, with a gun, it's like, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you never know who's hiding behind the corner, or who's got a bomb or whatever.
Oh no, for sure. Like you have to make those decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
That's why when I see stuff like, I know another time, a friend of mine, somebody was killed by a police officer, and then my friend was like, why didn't he just shoot the person in the leg? And my friend goes, well, he's like, in the military, we're shot to go for the core, because you're more likely, it's a bigger part of body mass.
For sure.
We're not trained to, disarm or to, injure. We're trained like it's us or them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it's either I have a greater chance of hitting them in the chest area, than aiming for a leg or an arm.
Right, and even if you get them down on the ground with a shot to the body, you know, they still might be able to reach for their
Yeah,
weapon
and you're
to try
still,
to
there's
get you.
still,
Yeah.
you know, until the threat is eliminated,
Yeah.
it's
And
still
you know, as horrible as some of the killings have been in Chicago and Minneapolis and Kenosha, all over the place, man, as horrible as those all have been, those cops, for the most part, were doing what was procedurally correct.
right.
And it's hard for, and I'm not taking sides, but it's
I
hard
can understand.
for people to go understand that this is
Right.
what you do, this is what your training is,
Mhm.
you know, because you don't know how it's going to go. Someone reaches into their car, you don't know what the hell they're doing. You don't know if they're going to pull out a gun and try to blow you
Absolutely.
away or.
And you know what's interesting is I started to watch this program on YouTube. They're called active uh, active self protection. Okay, and so many of the concepts that he teaches are concepts that I teach. Right, and he's talking about, like, you know, always practicing your draw so you get within under a second, and like, oh, you're always practicing these good habits, right? Because he
Yeah.
goes, when something goes down, he's like, you're no longer clear-headed in thinking. Now you're panicking. Now you're emotional. Now you're being shot at. You know, and all these things have to be trained to a degree where it's just subconscious. Like, boom, I'm ready to go.
Absolutely.
And when I work with my clients, for an example, like a runaway dog, something spooks it, firework goes off, car backfires, you know, dogs chasing a rabbit or whatever. I told the owner, I'm like, you have seconds to make your dog return using just your remote, which is why I stress so much. Like sometimes the dogs get tangled up in the leash, and I'll make the owner make the dog return despite the dog being tangled up. And sometimes the owners get really stressed out, right? And then everything happens or whatever, we're done. And I'll tell them, welcome to life. I'm like, right now your dog was on a leash, not going to go anywhere. It got tangled up. That's a distraction. There's going to be distractions in life, you know, and you're panicking and you're getting emotional, and everybody's thing is always to stop. And I tell them, like, if you do that, life's not going to let you stop. It's either you're going to make your dog return or you risk losing your dog. You know, that's the reality of things. Um, and like, even for me, like going with the aggressive dogs, like I said, like I already have these decisions made in my head. It just depends on what's going to be happening within that context. But of course, I've been doing this for 10 years, so easier for me.
Yeah. But it can be learned.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and
And
I actually
that's the
suggest
thing.
watching that guy. It'll kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And there's a
Yeah.
couple of times where people are attacked by a dog on his channel. There was one he actually just posted, I think. The guy was attacked by a German Shepherd trained for protection,
Yeah.
and he
Wow.
had to defend himself. And it was just a dog that got off leash. You know, and he's walking through a parking lot, him and his friend minding their business, and all of a sudden, off leash German Shepherd coming to attack. You know,
Wow.
and
That's scary.
he ended up, the dog went straight for his hand. He took his leg, pumped it out, kicked the dog back, and then kept that distance using his feet until the dog retreated. And then I think what he did was he kept forward body language, but always moved backwards, which was really good, because now you're keeping threat. The moment you turn your back to a dog and start running, you're done. Your target. The dog knows you're scared. Okay. I keep that forward body language. I keep that confrontation on. If the dog moves in, I move in myself because I'm right. I want to move in for confrontation. To the dog is you're. It's easier to fight off a dog than people think. It's just that everything that's out there is teaching people to um, not escalate the situation, but dogs don't escalate like humans do. You know, a human escalates because they get angry or angrier, right? So two people fighting each other it can possibly escalate because it's two humans. But dogs, you know, I mean, I've had to defend myself from a number of dogs throughout the years, off-leash dogs, you know, clients' dogs that got off-leash or whatever, things like that. Random dog just like coming at you. And I've only ever had one situation where I could not fend the dog off, and that was this one. Okay. But it wasn't because I couldn't fend the dog off. It's because the dog was responding in fear. The dog was responding there was too much stress. So to get him to stop, I just had to decompress the situation and release all tension, release all pressure. And as soon as I did that, within like a second to 2 seconds, he de-escalated and gave the fight up. So I didn't confront this dog, okay? Because confrontation would have made him more stressed out.
Yeah.
But when a dog is actively going to attack you for whatever reason, being territorial, resource guarding, whatever, or anything like that, it's not so much about fear. It's about, you know, we're in a moment, and one of us is going to win this fight. So it's also like assessing within the moment, where is this response coming from? And this dog was on a leash as well, so there was no escaping each other unless I let the leash go. But I have employees around, and I had to think like, well, what happens if I let the leash go and this dog goes after an employee? It was unlikely, but I'm thinking that within the moment. So I'm like, I got to keep you guys safe. And like, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So.
Yeah, but in that situation, when you have shortened up on the leash and just try to hold the dog up like this, just to get pressure up on his neck.
It was a Great Dane, though.
Huh?
It was a Great Dane.
Oh God. Okay. So
he just turned
dog probably taller than you are when he's on his hind legs.
Yeah, smaller dogs like, you know, Penny, you know, her size, you know, 50, 70-pound dogs. This guy's 130 pounds.
Yeah,
so
but he's tall too. He's probably 6 feet.
So that I was actually doing that.
Yeah.
Like he just turned his head up and caught my hand.
Ugh.
I have it on video.
Wow. Your highlight reel.
So.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And I don't know if I handled the situation well once I had it. She was biting me, and I couldn't get her to calm down. And the only thing I could think of doing was just to grab her collar and lift her up off the ground. So I mean, her feet were like 2 or 3 feet off the ground, and I had her like this. I'm like, there's no effing way.
Sure. Absolutely.
There's a bathroom right there. I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but I had to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
And I had to get her someplace where she could just go cool off.
So you got to think about it this way. I don't think that was an incorrect answer. I think it was an answer. Okay. That answer how'd you say, stopped the situation, right? Because you needed some kind of control. Because it's either I fight this dog off, I remove myself somehow, or I get her under control, right? To me, that was get her under control. Because I'm barefoot, she's already got me a couple of times.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to fight her, blah, 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 right? That when you pick up and lift up off the ground, absolutely, right? Because how's she gonna mobilize herself? The only thing that I would be careful of is how I'm reaching to get that collar, right? Because if I'm going over and she's escalated, I'm expecting this. Yeah. So the moment I grab that collar, what I do is I twist like this, and it'll flip the dog around so that the back of their head is at the back of my fist. So they're like this. Does it make sense?
Yeah, right.
So if I'm like this, they can turn around and actually bite me like that. And I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, where I picked the dog up and the dog turned around and was able to just graze the side of my hand. So the only thing I would suggest is like up and twist and then throw in the bathroom. It doesn't teach her to not do that or not confront you, but it just stops the situation.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Because I had a client, her dog went after another dog because of resource guarding. So the dog was getting treats with another dog, and then the other dog growled, which then set off her dog. Okay, so her dog jumped on the other one, pinned it down, and was like just snarling, right? So she said, Jesse, I just turned it up on 100. I tapped, called the dog, and then tapped again, and the dog came to me. And she's like, was that correct? I'm like, well, it didn't stop the aggression in the sense of the dog learning to not do that, right? Because instead the dog thought, oh, you called me, and dogs switch. So the dog went from like, I'm going to kill you for this treat to, okay, my mom's calling me. Like, that's how dogs' brains work. So the moment she called her dog away, I said, was your dog relaxed? She said, yes. And I said, because you removed the situation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like when in the TV show or cartoon, when someone's like, oh, look at that butterfly, like the attention just switches.
Yeah.
Right? That's dog. Okay. So it went from tension to mom called me, no tension. So
that's
instead,
crazy, because humans aren't like that.
No, a human can hold on to which has happened.
Oh,
right?
Are you kidding me? So think about the last time you got in a fight and how that just massive adrenaline dump
Mm-hmm.
and the cortisol, and just how that was just in your system, and you're probably pretty upset no matter what happened. Maybe you got in an argument with your wife or whatever. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it just like, and it just lingers, man. You got this big hormonal response to what just happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe dogs get that, I don't know, but it just seems like they're able to switch it off and move on faster.
Yeah, because they don't think about the past. You know, a human can go back, like, you know, so two people arguing, right? Emotions are up, adrenaline's pumping, all that stuff. And then once that resolves, both or one of them can be like, you know, that person really like pissed me off that one time. You know, like we can still hold on to that. Dogs don't do that.
Right.
You know, Penny doesn't think about like, man, Dad, like you know, cornered me in a room and I had to bite him. You know, like she doesn't think about that.
Right.
Okay, so that's why dogs. How do you say? So in her situation, I told her what she did wasn't wrong technically. It stopped the situation.
Yeah.
But I just said to be clear, you did not teach your dog to not pin dogs down. You simply called the dog, and the dog thinks
And actually, in that situation, that the dog, her dog, was pretty revved up in that moment, right? For whatever reason, I would be very careful about hitting the button, because to me that's like another stimulus that could like
Correct.
make it worse.
That's correct. And I told her that, and I said, you know, these are the options, and these are how things could play out. I was like, one, you call your dog, right? You pull your dog from the situation, you stop things from escalating, but your dog did not learn to not do that behavior. Or tap the button, and you're so high, the dog goes, holy crap, and removes himself from the situation. Or you tap the button and it sends the dog further into aggression, and you have to use the remote to make the dog concede or to pull out of the confrontation, you know, or you don't do anything and you let the dogs resolve it themselves. So those are like the 4 ways it could work out. And I told her, I don't care that you called your dog. I just want you to learn that if that happens again, your dog is going to jump back and pin the dog again because you didn't teach him not to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the difference. And again, I'm not about right or wrong with dog training. I'm about what's going to help in that given moment and keep everybody and anything as safe as possible. So, if in your case, you stopped the situation, but Penny did not learn to not do that.
Right. And I don't know, is it possible to teach a dog to do something that goes against, you know, it almost seems like it's an instinct at that point, that she's got to either, you know, not feel like she's getting backed up into a corner, or she's got to drop something that she values, a piece of plastic.
So there's 2 ways about that. One way is the e-collar, right? And I think we had spoken about this, I think the first 2 that we had.
Yeah.
Where I said, if she has something, like if I give her a bone, like I'd have her collared up and she could be, you know, across in the living room, and I could be in a totally different room, or I could be 30 feet from her, and I can make her relinquish that object using the e-collar and no confrontation. So we don't even ever start the resource guarding. Like most people think when we do resource guarding, we'll trigger the dog and then we'll punish the dog for guarding. Okay, I don't do that because that puts people at risk. Instead, I say, if you know your dog will start growling at you at 8 feet, then you stay outside of 8 feet and you just tell your dog drop from like 15 feet away as you start to remote, and the dog will remove themselves from the object. And then once they remove themselves, I can then grab the object because now they've relinquished it. And now there's
right, but in your situation, she's wearing the collar. And what happened to me last Monday wasn't it. She wasn't wearing the collar.
Yeah.
No.
So if she's not wearing the collar, then I'm going to make her give up, and I'm going to make her give up just like you saw at the facility here. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, ideally that's not the outcome I'm looking for. I don't want my dog to attack me. I don't want to have to.
I understand that too, but
you know, go
the thing
kung
is, it's
fu on
happening.
her.
The thing is, it's happening.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling you is, one, we work around it where we don't see that. So I know, like, I'm not going to back her into the situation because I know what's going to happen, right? What I'm saying is, if it happens, you know, because you're talking about a dog, like, remember, she can go from completely nice and sweet to that exorcist, uh, Penny, within a split second. And in that split second, it's crap. All I have is this
Yeah.
at my disposal, right? Now, if and by the way, I'm not saying to do this. I'm saying make your decision. So I'll tell my client, because you're not the first client, you're not gonna be the last client that their dog has bitten them.
Yeah.
As some of my clients go like, no, I don't want to risk that because I don't want to get bit. Then I go, good, you've made your decision, but be prepared. Like, let's say their dog has a very poisonous object, and they have nothing. They know if they confront the dog that it's going to escalate to, like, let's say, to what happened with you.
Yeah.
Then I go, okay, if you're in that moment, you've got nothing. So it's either confront the dog, risk being bit, and you have to use physicality, or I go to figure something else out, grab a broom, grab a racket, grab something that I can use to keep the dog at bay, but try to get the object back. But then understand that if your dog has a poisonous object, you might come back to a dead dog.
Right. I mean, like, let's say that somehow they find rat poison, like,
Exactly. Right.
those little decon packs, and they're chewing on it, and good
Exactly.
luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I would do. One is think about potential scenarios, either scenarios that you've seen or scenarios that you've been through, and just make your decision and go like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Okay. We know that now. Great. What are the options then if we're not going to do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So first thing is, we want to condition Penny to do what I call a release command. And this is something that is trained. Okay. And the idea here is that we train Penny to release an object when we cue her, for instance, the word drop, or some people say out. And that word means whatever is in your mouth, you need to surrender, like relinquish it, spit it out, and walk away 10 feet. Okay. And you're teaching this as a skill. And the idea here is, let's say you teach the skill, you practice it, and then 9 months from now, Penny is in possession of something, and you just go to drop, and you've spent the time to condition it. She spits it out, she walks away. We get no confrontation. We don't get the having to back her up, none of that stuff. Okay. So that's what we always want to do and teach. And then I think about, well, what do I do if she doesn't respond to the drop, right? Because you got to think, when we've done this, always done this in a controlled context. But then maybe you're in the yard and she's got like a dead squirrel in her mouth or something like that, Then you think, well, is it really important, like that important enough for me to try to confront her for the squirrel if she's not listening to the drop? Right? Because in her mind, you could say drop, and she's like, yeah, this is a dead squirrel. I don't want to give this up,
Yeah.
Like, that's dog. So then I go, okay, crap. Like, I can't make you drop that because it's a dead squirrel and you've never had that before. So the value is super high. Okay. So the very common misconception is people think that when you train a dog, you're going to get 100% consistency. And that is not how it works. Humans are not 100% consistent, which is why I use the cop analogy. And I say, when people go on the expressway, I ask them if they go the speed limit. Most people say no. Most people go like, I don't go the speed limit on the expressway. I'm like, but what if you see a squad car? They go, then I go the speed limit. I go, there you go. Right? So we have laws, and even people aren't consistent with those laws because there's not enough resources to reinforce the laws to the degree that they're supposed to be, right? That's dog. So let's say you've trained all this stuff, but now you find yourself in that one context where you're like, drop, and she goes, nope, you don't have the collar, and this is something that I've never had before, and the value is, I'm gonna gamble it. I'm gonna gamble it that you can't make me release this, and if you confront me, now I'm gonna fight you for it. Okay, like that's just realistically speaking how that could work. Ideally, it would be she still spits it out, which is just takes a lot of conditioning. But again, dog, not 100% consistent. So, um, what I would do in a moment when I don't have the collar and I don't want Penny to attack me, right? And you need to get her to release something is, you can use a broom, a mop, something that will distance you from her, but still allow you to like poke at her to release the object, okay? Because a dog, in my experience, will attack the closest thing to them. And I plan on making a video on this once I get some more time, but I don't know, did I tell you about the Shih Tzu that attacked me here?
I don't think so.
Okay, this was
Maybe
during
you
the
did. I don't know.
consultation. So the dog would attack the husband, okay, and was attached to the wife. So anytime the husband got near the wife, the dog would attack him. And the husband couldn't walk the dog because he couldn't get the collar on the dog. The dog would attack him. So they asked me to show them how they could pass the leash to the husband where they could work around the aggression, okay? So I said, sure, you're gonna do this, right? And as they're doing that, the dog slips out of the collar, and I'm, in my room here, my puppy room here. So I go to block the threshold so that the dog doesn't get loose in the facility. And the wife's trying to call the dog, and the husband backs out of the situation because he's like, I don't want the dog to come after me, right? So the dog starts to bark at me, and I immediately put my foot up. Okay, it's a Shih Tzu. So I just put my foot up, and I had some boots on because it was winter. And he started barking at me. Then he turned around towards the mom, and then turned around and then went charged straight at me. But because my boot was the first thing that he could get to, he attacked my boot. So I just got there, and I just let him attack the boot because it wasn't hurting me, right? Then my employee grabbed my bite sleeve, and the dog backed away and then came after me again. But this time I had the bite sleeve, and I just extended the bite sleeve. Now the dog started to bite the sleeve. Okay, so look at anything that you have as an extension of you. Okay, I've not ever seen a dog, unless it was a trained skill, bypass something to go for the person. Okay, so if I have a racket, if I have a jacket out, my foot, whatever it is, the first thing that's closest to the dog's mouth is what they're going to direct to.
Okay.
Okay, so that allows you to get some physicality in, because in order to get her to release something, you're essentially saying, I want what you have, and she's saying, well, you can't have it, right? So I think you're taking notes, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a video on YouTube. It's wild dogs in heat. Try Googling that or YouTubing that. And it's a number of dogs fighting over a female in heat. Okay. And you'll see exactly just like how like primal, that's primal feral dogs, like how they resolve things. And it's simply one dog wanted the female, another dog came in the challenge, and it was a fight until somebody lost. Then whoever lost went away, and then that new winner had the dog or had the female. And then another dog comes in the challenge, and it's another fight. And it's like it's cycling just through a bunch of dogs trying to gain possession of this female in heat. Okay.
Wow.
So that's the conversation. So when you're, jabbing, poking, prodding, however you want to term it, it's with intent, like intent to cause discomfort of, you need to release what's in your mouth. Surrender it. Okay. Once she spits it out, then I just hold there and see what she does. She might posture and like say, like, I still want this. Then I might poke again. And then she goes, crap, this isn't worth it. And she walks away. And then once she walks away, when I go towards the object, I'm facing her, but moving backwards towards the object. And I'm keeping my eyes on her, and I crouch down and I pick it up, and then I stand up. And then after that, there shouldn't be an issue, but I would still recommend that you keep your eyes on her until you put that object away.
Right, because there's a possibility that she could charge you.
Yeah,
She could see her chance, like, to get it back.
Correct. Okay. Now, if you've really disengaged her. So if we go back to the facility, when I disengaged Penny, right, she wanted nothing to do with me because I got a good correction in. She backed off, and then she calmed down, right? So then if you create that through whatever you're using within that moment, you taking the object and all that stuff shouldn't be an issue. As soon as that object is out of play,
Yeah.
I don't suspect that there would be any tension left over. Okay. But I wouldn't try to mend things with Penny. I wouldn't try to pet her to let her know things are okay. Just let her resolve it herself.
Yeah.
Okay. I've not seen a dog re-trigger unless the context was still in play or something there was, that allowed the dog to kind of think again, like I want that object again, but doesn't mean it can't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Emily, by the way, she was supposed to jump on around 5. She's got like something going on at work where they just dumped a bunch of new stuff, responsibilities in her lap, and she said she was going to try to get on.
Yeah, and I haven't seen her pop up on here, so.
Okay. All right. So we're supposed to have some folks over to our house on Saturday, depending on who can show up. Do you know if your facility has any openings for this weekend?
Yeah, for your mic.
Okay. That's cool. It's not a for sure thing yet. We were supposed to do it last weekend, but then someone in my office got COVID, which sucks. But then I'm like, yeah, we're not having folks over.
Sure.
So, but I'm good. I just got tested. Have you gotten a COVID test yet?
No, there's one here around the, I think like a few blocks away, whatever.
So they take like a Q-tip that's like this big.
Mm-hmm.
And then the nurse or whatever goes, okay, look up at the ceiling. So you have your head tilted back. Both sides.
Yeah.
It's like, man.
I had something like that done a few months ago, but it wasn't because of COVID. It was something else.
Yeah, but okay. So fortunately, there's nothing there. I'm clean as a whistle. But anyways, so yeah, so there's a very good chance we're gonna have some folks over. Saturday is supposed to be a beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like 80 degrees or whatever, and just take advantage of it. So, but I want to tell you, so Emily's we've been working with Penny, and when we talked a couple weeks ago, we talked about having someone come to the door and having kind of backing Penny up and behind the line, like this sort of this line, and it's a sofa, and then like we've got an area rug in our living room. She's done really well with it. She gets it. She got it like right away.
Okay.
And Emily was remoting her. Someone came into the door. She started barking. Boom, she got her. She went right away, and she just sat there. Mm-hmm. Even when the person then came into the house, and this is like Penny's got her muzzle on, so we felt like we could take the chance.
Sure.
Person walked into the entryway of our house, and we're talking to him, just having a normal conversation. She just sat there like a statue. Mm-hmm. Didn't move a muscle. Mm-hmm. And we didn't praise her or anything because you said not to do that.
Right.
Just let it make it as like routine and normal as possible. Like, this is what you got to do. Mm-hmm. She was really good at it. She got it like right away.
Good.
So I thought that was some progress.
Absolutely. If you'd like, I can have one of my employees go up to you guys.
Okay. So besides the fact that this is someone she's never seen before, who knows how to like maybe get her a little maybe get her a little agitated. Oh yeah, here she is. What else would that do for us?
Well, he can show up in the suit.
Oh, in the bite suit?
Yeah. So then if you really want to see what happens, hi, Emily, you there?
Emily.
Maybe her audio.
Are you there? AM. Audio. Let's see what she's doing.
I feel like you hear something. Yeah, he can show up in the bite suit. She can be unmuzzled, leash dragging as precaution, whatever. And then he can go into her space, touch her, see how she feels about it, things like that, just to give you an idea. If she tries something, you can correct it because he's got the suit on. That's what it's meant for.
Yeah.
He's actually going to be doing that with another client this coming Monday.
Okay.
So I would be there if you wanted via Zoom. and
Yeah.
then he would be there in person, so I can, you know, coach you, coach him, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then it'll just kind of give you, I could kind of show you like how I would advance it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, with the dog like yours, there's the whole trust factor. Like I have another client right now where we just did the door thing, and it's also an Australian Shepherd, by the way. And he did great. And I told him like it's going to be time because they would withdrawn themselves because they didn't want him to go after anybody. I'm like, and then the daughter asked me, she's like, well, how do I know when I can trust him again? And I go, in my book, you really can't. Okay. And all I said was like, it's not that you can't trust him, is I trust that he's going to behave well. But I also trust that if he acts out, I can get under control. It's those two things working together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like that's what makes me an effective trainer, is that it doesn't always go well, but I have developed my skill set where I will get things back under control somehow. And the e-collar makes this a lot easier for my dog owners. The muzzle, of course, removes a lot of that stress that they can press things. But in the back of, I told you, just always remember that your dog's not like the completely social, love everyone, everything type of dog. Your dog had issues that we worked on, resolved it, but there's always the possibility of like, having a bad day or something, or not catching
Yeah.
something.
Oh no, we're not ever going to be, I don't think we'll ever like let our guard down, let her run around and, go up to everybody. And that, I don't see that ever happening.
Mhm.
Because we just don't trust her. And, the other thing, as we've discussed about Aussies is, and probably other breeds too, it takes them a while to mature. It takes them a while to kind of simmer down, and she's not there yet. Just but she's getting better. And a lot of the things, like again, I putting this bite thing to the side for the moment, like Emily's ability to back her up when there's someone at the door, or if she sees someone and she wants to bark out the window, just nipping that in the bud. That's coming along very well. The walking stuff, I think she's got that down cold. So all of that kind of boot camp kind of stuff, she's doing well with. We'll continue to work with her.
Okay.
But I think one thing that would be valuable for the coming week is to kind of discuss, to do some of the things that you and I talked about, like the getting her to relinquish an object, and then getting her to maybe back off or go to a special place or something like that after we get her to let it go.
Yeah. What I would do is I have a video that I just recorded, the one I spoke to you about the dog that pinned the other dog down.
Yeah, right.
Is we actively went over some resource guarding stuff.
Yeah.
What we did was we taught the dog that if anything fell on the ground, most dogs go for it. We taught her to run away from it. Okay, by default, like the object falling down was the cue for you need to go the other way. Okay. So to prevent, like, let's say she's out like in the courtyard and somebody drops treats and all the dogs go for the treats, her dog's gonna go the opposite way. Okay.
Right.
So that prevents that problem. We also taught the dog that nothing is a right. Like most people, they bring out like the tennis ball and the dog's all over the tennis ball, right? And for me, until I give permission, that ball means nothing to the dog. Okay. And then we taught whenever she would even give treats, she had to give treats a very specific way and give the dog permission to take the treat. Otherwise, the dog would not touch it. She would actually turn away. So when they would brings the bacon and the dog goes like this, right?
Wow.
Most dogs go like this, like give me the treat, right? So we do that as preventative measure, okay? So that we don't get like what you had with Penny a week ago, okay, a couple of weeks ago. I do that so we don't get that, but sometimes that will still happen. It's like making your house as baby proof as possible, but something could still happen. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, is that Emily?
That's Emily.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Hey.
No, and that's just a thing, you know. So you think your house is baby proof, you put locks on the cabinets and all this stuff, gates, and you think you got it covered, but every now and then someone will leave something open or leave something out. Baby, next thing you know, you got, you know, 14-month-old trying to swallow something, you know, a bottle cap, or oh shit, you know, how do I deal with the situation? And that's kind of what happened with Penny. I mean, she got this thing. It was, you know, again, I was working on this room. She got it. She should not have gotten it. She should not have even had access to it, but it happened.
Yeah. You know, like, so, you know, there's a lot of kind of variables around this. Like I said, like we want to set it up to where we don't get that. And I give you everything to either control the situation, get it back under control, or prevent it.
Yeah.
But in the situation of if it does still happen, then we have the other, like, well, you're going to have to confront it, or you let it go. And if it's something like she took a piece of bread, like who cares, right? Like if I see her taking a piece of bread and I'm like, I got nothing, then I don't even say anything.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you say something is when you start the context. Does that make sense? And then she learns.
Yeah. And it's like too bad you the human, you lose. You let her in the kitchen. You didn't push the food away. So that's on you.
Right. Okay.
You
But if
know,
it's something where it's like, no, I have to take that from her and I don't
Yeah.
have the e-collar, she's not responding to drop, then you have to go into the backup mode of like those
Right.
decisions that you've made already,
Right.
and then your game plan from that point.
Right. You anticipate what's probably going to happen. You've got some sort of defensive thing that you can do, whether it's a broom or a whatever, if you need to use it.
Correct. And
Yeah.
in Cesar Millan, you'll see them use things like a racket and stuff. So it gives you an idea of like what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And
And
I'm
a
sure
lot,
if you Google Cesar Millan or YouTube Cesar Millan tennis racket, I'm positive something's going to pop up.
I'll definitely check this out.
And I'll send you the link to this whole scenario here to show
Yeah.
you. You know, because in that situation, I was super calm. And again, I didn't confront the dog because the dog wasn't agitated as in an attack mode. The dog was in self-defense mode. So then my thought process was decompress, de-stress the situation, and that will remove the aggression. Okay.
Yeah.
So even though I talk about being very confrontational and stuff like that, it's because in most contexts, that's what it is. But I also know that that's not always the answer, that sometimes the answer is you just need to decompress the situation or de-escalate.
So then is there like an exercise or a training thing we can do with her to get her to drop it? I mean, is there a specific thing that
Once I get
you
this
want us to
video
do
up,
it?
once I get this video up,
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm actively working with the owner, and you see me. It's super, super simple.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Like literally, like I drop a piece of bacon by the dog, and then the moment the dog goes towards it, I remote, and she walks away from it. Like it's super simple. Okay.
Okay.
Now the only issue is because you're actively putting rules on things that she would have interest in, is you're probably going to see disinterest. Okay, it's just part of the process. Where like maybe if she guards the ball and I do this with the ball, she's like, I don't even want to play with the ball anymore because I'm going to get remoted, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have the balance of happy dog who plays with the ball and, you know, also respect rules immediately. Like it takes, you know, practice. But I had a dog, and this dog was a very severe resource guarder, very severe. And I made it to the point where he wanted nothing to do with anything. You know, not intentionally, but that's how it ended up working out because he was such an intense resource guarding case. And I told the owner, like, look, your dog has already nailed like 4 or 5 people for resource guarding. Like, who cares if the dog isn't happy because they can't have a bone anymore because it's been remoted so much. Like that was the point. It says so there's nothing to guard so that he doesn't attack people.
Right.
You know,
and a lot of this is situational. So if we're just like hanging out watching TV and she's got her bone, that's awesome. Go for it, you know. Or if we're in the backyard and Aussies are really good frisbee dogs, so I can throw a frisbee and she'll go after it and she'll catch it and everything. You know, I want her to have that. I want this to be part of her life. And she's like 50-50 on dropping it in front of me so I can throw it again. Generally she wants to come over and play tug of war with me, and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just ignore you till you drop it. But I don't want her to ever be that dog that can't enjoy stuff. And I'm sure most dog owners are that way too.
Yeah, but like, so the way I would approach that is I would actually use the Frisbee game to teach her to release, because it's something you practice regularly, right?
Yeah, okay.
But what you're going to see is a dip, because now you're putting rules to things. Now you're putting negative, right? So then you see that dip, and I'm trying to get a balance too. I'm trying to get a balance of, yes, I can give the dog a bone and they'll take it, but when I tell them to drop it, they release it, right? I'm trying to achieve that balance. I'm just saying that in some cases, you know, the dog ends up losing that, and I go, well, it's either the dog loses it and doesn't bite people,
right,
or
or
you
the
try
dog
to get that balance, and then, you know.
Yeah, the ultimate consequence for the dog, which is the dog gets put down.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Frisbee is a great way to practice that, because it's something she enjoys. It's something that you do on a regular basis. You're constantly practicing that release command.
Yeah.
And we don't punish the dog. We go really low. I go really low on the collar, and I work my way up until I find a number that makes them spit it out very quickly, but keeps them engaged.
Got it.
You know? So I don't want you to think that we're trying to like make her scared of it.
No, I know, but I think Emily would say the same thing, if I could speak for you. So.
Anything else?
No. Nope. You got any thoughts there, Em?
So if anything pops up, let me know. I'll send you that link, and I just ask that you just keep it private, because it's a private video. I've only sent it to employees and stuff.
Absolutely, no problem.
Them, to educate them, because they need to know how to, you know.
No. Absolutely, I wouldn't share with anybody anyway.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
No.
So if you need anything else, you let us know. I'll send you that video. Once I get this resource guarding one up, I'll get that up as well. It's very simple.
Okay, and Saturday, right now, we're probably around 60% chance of actually doing something with our friend.
Yeah, sure.
I can run her into the city on Saturday morning and pick her back up on Sunday morning.
That's fine. Yeah. You can either just shoot an email to Maria, just to confirm.
Sure. Yeah.
And then she'll let my staff know that's here on the weekends. You know, it'd be Brianna most likely, who was here last time that Penny was dropped off.
Yeah.
That she's coming by.
Oh, it's her again. Great.
Yeah. So she might just come out in the suit, just to be safe.
Right. Well, she's so skinny. It's like, you know, oh my God.
She's worn the suit though. It's funny. She's worn it. Yeah.
Well, she's got a Halloween costume, if nothing else.
But yeah, it doesn't matter how it works out. Don't worry about, you know, if you can't do it, you don't need to let us know.
I appreciate the flexibility on that.
Yeah, no, it's not a big deal. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you guys. We'll be in touch.
Yeah. All right, man. Have a good evening.
You too.
Take care.